Hello, welcome to this new episode. This time, I'd like to talk to you about how to maintain a healthy work life balance if you work full time from home. This is a question I got on my Instagram when I asked my followers to, ask me a question which I could talk about in an episode, and this was one of the questions that came out. This is mainly important if you work from home for yourself. In my case, I stopped working for an employer at the beginning of 2022. And that meant that from that time on, I was only working for myself. So, the tips that I will give to you in this episode are based on my own experience and what I found out in about 1.5 years that did work and didn't work. First of all, it's important to decide how many hours do you want to work and which hours do you want to work. Like if you say, I want to work full time, how many hours is that? Is that 40 hours or maybe more? Or maybe you say, well, working for myself gives me the opportunity to work less, to maybe only work 20 hours a week. Then decide for yourself, how will you schedule those 20 hours over your week? Are you only going to work mornings? Maybe you work 5 days, 4 hours. But maybe you say, well, I'm going to spread it over 3 days. And it's also important to note that you're not only limited to Monday until Friday. That thought of you have to work on weekdays and you can't work on a weekend, it's kind of old-fashioned, isn't it? Someone once decided that 9 to 5 on Monday until Friday are working hours, business hours. But you're not obliged to follow that thought. You can do what you want. If you want to work on a Saturday and a Sunday, and you take your Monday and Tuesday off, because you still want to work 5 days, you do you. You can do what you want and what you like. So when you determine how many hours you want to work in a week and how you want to spend those hours over your week, you have a baseline, a guideline to know, okay, this is my working hours. Because if you give yourself the complete freedom, you might end up working not at all and not making any money, or you might end up working way too much. And there's a thing to say for what's working too much, but that's maybe for another episode. But this is the first thing that's important, in my opinion, to create a healthy work-life balance. Second of all, make a separate room where you will work. So that means don't work in your living room, at least if you have the opportunity. Try to set up a workplace somewhere else in a separate area, preferably somewhere where you can lock it off with a door. Because in that way, you won't be confronted with your work the whole time. Because if you set up your workspace, for example, in your kitchen, on your kitchen table, or in the living room somewhere, you put a desk in your living room, you're constantly seeing your desk. That means that your head is constantly thinking about work, and that's not healthy. You need to be able to get a distance from your work. And the most easy thing to create that is by working in a separate room, which you can lock off with a door. Of course, if you don't have the space to create something like this, then try to maybe put something in between that you don't see your workspace the whole time. Or maybe you can easily clean it up. To say, like if you have a laptop or paperwork, that you stuff it away, that you just don't see it the whole time. The third tip that I would have is to use a notebook online or on your phone, for example, or offline, where you can write down your thoughts, because you will probably have great business ideas all day long, because you love your job, you love your own business. And if you can write your ideas down, this means you can let it go. You don't have to remember everything. Because if you want to remember everything that's in your head, you are so busy with just remembering and not living your private life. The fourth tip that I have for you is to tell your roommates that you are at work. That you can say to the ones you're living with, if that's just a partner or kids or whatever, say to them, hey, I'm now going to work. If you have that separate room, you might close the door and you have the rule when the door is closed, you don't enter. Or just knock and come in. But it's not very convenient if you're being disturbed the whole time. So it's a great idea to just tell the people that you're living with, okay, now I'm going to work. Because especially if you're used to working outside of the house and you're suddenly working in the house and someone else is there too, it's new for them too. So don't forget that. And a follow-up tip on this part is to put on noise-canceling headphones. That way you don't get distracted by everything that's happening around the house. Of course, this is dependent whether you live with other people or not, but also with pets. In my case, I have a giant dog and I have 3 cats. And they can suddenly start running around the house or make noises. And my husband, he works at home too, so he walks around the house too. And the dishwasher makes noise. And cars outside make noise. Everything makes noise in a house. And to prevent you from being distracted all the time, it's really convenient to wear noise-canceling headphones. So you can really focus and be as efficient and productive as you can be. Some other small tips that I would like to give to you is don't be mad at yourself if you end up working too much or too little compared to what you thought you would want to work. There's no use in getting mad on yourself. You can rather accept the situation and decide, I'm going to do it differently. But don't get fed up with yourself. If you end up working until 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening and you didn't want to do that, then just accept it and say, okay, I worked for longer than I wanted to, but it's okay. I can't change it for what's already happened, but I can change it for the future. So how will I make sure that I won't work until 8 or 9 another time? And even if it happens more, don't be mad. Don't argue with yourself because no one is getting happy about that. Another thing that might be useful if you're maybe afraid when you're working for yourself that you won't be as productive is getting a business buddy. Someone to check in with at a set time, maybe every Monday at a certain time or every day, or just find out what works for you guys both. Further to that, you can work with a business coach, of course. In my example, I'm a business coach myself, so I coach my clients. My clients, if they stay quiet for too long on the WhatsApp support that I give them, I will check in with them. Like, hello, how are you doing? Is there something wrong? Or like, why didn't you check in? Or I agree to a set time that we check in every week. But in this way, you make sure that you do something, that if you say to yourself, I'm going to perform this task, that it will happen. And if you're really struggling with the fact of working at home and finding a balance and actually get to work instead of do nothing all day, you will never do nothing, but you get what I mean. You could also look into possibilities like a co-working place. Maybe just for 1 day or half a day in a week, but maybe that might be an option for you to just transition into working from an office to completely working at home. But remember, always remember, it's new, it's a change. It's different than what you're used to. You might have already worked for years and years at an office and suddenly you're working from home. That is a change that will take time to get used to, and that's okay. I will make another episode about productivity, my 5 best productivity hacks, so to say, with which tips you can make sure you're as productive as you can be on your working day, whether you're working from home or from another place. But that's too much to do all in one episode, so I will make a separate one on that. Thank you so much for listening to this 3rd episode of my podcast. I'm so glad that you took the time to listen to me, and I would love to see you back another time. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you'll get a notification when I post a new episode. And I would also be very happy if you leave a review. You can give me stars on Spotify or on Apple Podcast, and I would be very thankful if you would do that. Thank you so much and talk to you soon. Bye bye!